Today we'll be talking about something a little darker, something that might make you feel a little uncomfortable, so please be advised. We will be talking about demons and devils, their origins, the difference between them, and much more. If you're looking for some inspiration for your homebrewed world or you're simply here to learn something new, I promise you will find out things you were never taught in school, so stick around and enjoy. Hello all you funky people, Funky Monkey here, welcome to today's episode. This is my 50th episode, woohoo! And I am celebrating by painting something big, something fierce, something scary. And before we jump into our story, let me tell you about the miniature I will be painting today. In this episode I am painting the demon prince Orcus, one of the 3 princes of the Abyss. This, as you can see, is a fantastic miniature, and I'll be honest, I've been looking forward to painting it for the longest of time, but I felt a little, intimidated by it, feeling that I wasn't ready to do it justice properly. Well, I took the demon lord by the horns and here we are. Now, I initially painted all of his skin in a dark red, but I used an ink that reactivated when I came in with the first layer, so I decided to go back to the drawing board and use the airbrush to base coat all of his skin in a dark purple. With the miniature base coated, I am applying a very dark red, making sure to leave purple in all the recesses, basically leaving shadows in place. I will add then very thin layers, building up to the desired opacity before moving on to the next color. The plan is to go from dark purple to dark red to crimson to orange and finish with a light beige. Also, I plan on going with a classic skull head, so nothing too extravagant. While for the wings I have something special in mind, but I'll be honest, I think there will be a part 2 to this painting as the miniature has a lot going on for it, and I want to make sure I take my time with each element and do it justice, if that makes sense. Okay, let's start our story. Okay, let's try and get our cats in a row and go through the pre-story checklist. I don't have any coffee at this point because it's way too late in the evening, but I do have some awesome tea in my moose cup, and I have something for the soul, and my lovely assistant, oh, there's one, hey. Okay, so last 2 episodes, Mango was the one caught, now we have Potato or Potty. How about you? Are you comfy, cozy, and got something on hand that would get you in the mood for a journey through history and myth? Perfect, then I think it's time for a story. Okay, come on. There you go. Awesome. Okay, most, if not all, human cultures had and still have demons and devils to scare children into behaving and keep the general population in check from a religious point of view. But where do they come from and what is the difference between them, if any? First, let's start with this. What is the difference between devils and demons? The answer is quite short and disappointing. There is no real difference. The difference was lost in translation. No, really, I'm not joking. The difference was actually lost in translation over the centuries. As it stands now, in Abrahamic religions, especially in Christianity, there is only one devil and the rest are demons. The devil is Satan himself, or Lucifer, while his servants are demons. Most likely there were differences at one point, but there are no sources that explain the differences, at least none that I could find. With that out of the way, let's find out where the devils and the demons actually come from, shall we? And I'm not talking about the Old Testament version, but the original version. Well, demons are much older than the Abrahamic religions, most likely originating in the earliest moments of human history and embody the human fears of the unexplained, ranging from natural phenomena to odd behaviors of other members of the community. Demons entered the Abrahamic religions from Zoroastrianism through Persian influences and found fertile ground, allowing for growth and evolution. So, coming from Zoroastrianism, an Iranian religion, through Persian influences, let's go to the roots and see how demons were perceived and described there. As a brief history of Zoroastrianism, it is one of the oldest organized religions that still survives to this day. It is one of the first, if not the first, monotheistic religion, meaning that they have one supreme god, only one god actually, and that god has no beginning and has no end, and of course it is locked in the eternal struggle between good and evil. The earliest estimates place the founding of Zoroastrianism around 1500 BCE, give or take. Before we learn where demons come from, we need to know what led to their creation. The story of the war between evil and good is quite simple in Zoroastrianism. The good guy, representing light, knowledge and goodness, creates the world. The good guy, Ashura Mazda, manifests 7 entities to help him, called Amesha Spentas, and then he creates the Yazates, lesser divinities. And then he creates a trap for the bad guy in the form of an egg-shaped world, first in spiritual form, and 3000 years later he adds the material part of the world. And he also creates the first human and the first kettle, Gaiomard and Gavevodata. The bad guy, Angra Mainyu, exists in darkness, evilness and ignorance and wants to take over the world that Mazda just created and remake it in its own image. The evil guy starts copying what the good guy was doing and creates his own creatures, the Devas, twisted entities, as well as other smaller but nagging things such as snakes, ants and flies. Then, with his forces amassed, the BBEG, Big Bad Evil Guy for those who do not know, invades the world and kills the first human and the first bull. The moment they both die, seeds explode and burst forth from them. From the seeds of the bull, plants and animals grow and populate the world, while from the primordial human, a tree grows. From its leaves, the first human couple appears, and they start populating the world. With the trap sprung, the BBG was trapped on this world with all of his forces. And it was believed among Zoroastrians that all evil in the world does not come necessarily from Angra Mainyu himself, but from his attempt at invading the world. So basically the bad guy is not that bad, his actions were bad. If you are a D&D player, or a GM or a DM, you know that the Devas are good angelic entities, but their origins are dark. Devas did not start out as devils or demons. They initially were called the wrong gods or the false gods, and people were encouraged to reject them. Devas are identified not as the subjects of Angra Mainyu, the main BBEG, but springing forth from Akemanach or evil thinking. And Angra Mainyu simply influences Devas to Akistem Manach, worst thinking. In the earliest writings, Devas are entities that bring chaos and disorder, and as time progresses and religion evolves to meet the needs of the people, they become the embodiment of every evil deed or thought. Later on, as Islam gains more ground, the Devas are integrated into Islam as the Dev or Div. Most likely Devas or wrong gods are a representation of the other gods ancient Iranian people worship instead of Ashura Mazda. This fits well in the pattern of quote-unquote my god is better than your god. If you are confused of the word Deva, yes, it is also found in Hinduism. Zoroastrianism and the Vedic religion share a common history up to a point where there was a schism between the two religions. Now, Angra Mainyu, in his attempt at mirroring everything Ashura Mazda did, created 6 devs, at least according to some Zoroastrian sources. According to other sources, 3 already existing Vedic deities, Indra, Sarva or Rudra, and Nasatya, follow Angra Mainyu, while the other 3 were created by Mainyu himself, and these were Tauru, Zairi, and Nasu. By the way, in the Vedic religion, Indra is the king of gods. Together, these 6 entities, regardless of the sources consulted, are the counterparts of the 7 Amesha Spentas. The idea that the Vedic king of gods would follow Angra Mainyu and oppose the quote-unquote good guy is, at least in my opinion, yet another sign that reinforces the idea that there was a split between Zoroastrians and Vedics at one point. And this resulted in yet another example of the "my god is better than your god. See, your chief god is a servant of my evil god," and that they will all eventually be defeated in the end. But maybe in less words. The 6 deus are listed in a later text dating from the Sassanid Empire. We had Akomen, or evil thought, directly opposed Vohumahan, or good thoughts, good purpose. We had Indra, the one who freezes the mind of the righteous, and opposes Asha Vahishta, the truth or right working. We had Nangait, the one sowing discontent, opposing Spenta Armaiti, or holy devotion, harmony. We had Sarvar, oppression, opposing Kshathra Vairya, desirable dominion. We had Tauru or Taurvi, destruction, opposing Taurvatat, wholeness or perfection. And Zauri or Zairi, poisoner of plants, perhaps plague or something, and the Deva of aging, but ungraceful aging, who opposes Ameretat, immortality, long life on earth, and long life in the afterlife or eternal life. Later writings add 2 more Devas, but only one of them has a direct opposite among the Amesha Spentas. And these 2 are Eshma or Kseshp, understood as wrath, who opposes Sraosha, conscious and observance, while the last but not the least we have Ganag Menog, foul death or stinking spirit. These are the first, or among the first, recorded demons or devils in human history. Of course, as I mentioned before, long before they found themselves described in secret texts, these entities existed in the minds of humans as a means of explaining the unexplainable. In later sources, of course, the list of archdevas expanded to include, besides these original 6, many more. Many more, such as perversion, strife, falsehood, causer of drought, sloth, disgrace, slander, the one who denies doctrine, negligent, scorn, lust, destruction, evil eye, the one who opposes clouds, causes earthquakes and whirlwinds, sickness through food and water, and many, many, many more. As you can see, there is a lot for you to use here in case you are a world builder. To be honest, I haven't heard before the idea of the BBEG getting stuck on the prime material realm with his invasion force. I think this is an amazing start to a campaign. Now, I don't know if I would go with the idea that the good guy created the material plane as a trap for the BBEG, because if that's the case, in the end, mortals are the one who suffer. And then the question arises, who's actually worse? The guy who just wanted to invade, or the one who set the trap and actually succeeded in trapping what mortals were told was the BBEG on the same realm as the mortals, knowing they will get caught in the crossfire. And then mortals, although on the same plane of existence as the BBEG, get punished eternally and reach hell. You tell me who's actually the bad guy. See, this is a simple start to a campaign where your players have to decide who is worse and how to free themselves. Now, let's check out the miniature real quick and we'll continue. Well, as you can see, I'm still working on the skin and the muscles. Of course, there is a lot of skin showing in this miniature, and as opposed to other miniatures that I've tackled in the past that had a lot of cloth or a lot of armor, This time I'm really taking my time. I don't have a lot of experience painting skin, and as opposed to painting cloth or armor that can go in any direction with opacity, with shininess, with brightness, etc. When it comes to skin, I'm trying to go for a more realistic feeling. Of course, this is still a fantasy setting, but I need that anchor in reality. I'm trying to get that rippling muscle effect without the miniature actually having rippling muscles. And it is the most I've spent on painting the skin of a miniature, but it's well worth it. I'm learning new things, it's a good exercise. And as you can see, I'm trying to paint in muscles where I feel they should go. I'm doing this by thinning down paint a lot and applying thin lines over and over again on the same area, trying to build up to rippling muscles that reflect light or something. Yeah, he's been working out, killing all these mortals, and he's sweaty right now, and his muscle fibers are glistening. It is quite a slow process, but it gives me a lot of control over the painting, and it is quite satisfying. Oh, we have a guest. Because it's the 50th episode, I present you both of my assistants. See, they made an appearance for such an occasion. Okay. Now, with the origins of the devils or demons established, let's talk about what demons were like in other cultures. Let's start with ancient Egypt. The Egyptians had their own demons, their own embodiments of evil, but some of them were in the service of good, so to speak. First on our list is Amit, the crocodile-headed goddess who aided Osiris in judging the souls of the dead once they reached the Hall of Two Truths before the god. The hearts of the deceased were weighed against a feather of Maat, the goddess of truth and justice, and if they were judged as being good, they would go on to spend eternity in paradise in the fields of reeds. If on the other hand they were found wanting, their hearts were thrown to Amit to devour. She was depicted as having the head of a crocodile, the forelegs of a lion, and the hind legs of a hippo, the three main man-eaters in ancient Egypt. And she would sit on an isle in the middle of a lake of fire. Then we have Apep or Apepi, or better known as Apophis, the Egyptian deity who embodied darkness and disorder, nemesis of Maat and Ra. He was represented as a titanic snake that was titled Lord of Chaos, Enemy of Ra, Evil Dragon, or Serpent from the Nile. According to ancient texts, he either resided just beneath the horizon trying to ambush Ra as the sun god journeyed across the sky, or he was trapped there. In the stories where he was trapped, he was believed to either be trapped there because he was so evil that the other gods just imprisoned him, or because he was the previous king of gods and was overthrown by Amun-Ra, leading to his imprisonment. Apophis was the embodiment of all evil in ancient Egypt, and priests had detailed guides as how to battle Apophis. These guides were called the Book of Overthrowing Apep or the Book of Apophis. According to myth, Ra defeats Apophis by taking the form of a cat. Another evil entity was Kek, the personification of the primordial darkness. And last but not least, we have the god Seth, or Set, the god of deserts, storms, violence, disorder, and foreigners, strangely enough. But the Egyptians were divided on Seth, some of them seeing him as a hero and defender, a good deity, while others at one point began seeing him as the embodiment of evil, but that's another story for another time. Man, it's been a while since I last said that. Now, let's stop by the Greeks for a bit and talk about their daimons. No, not that kind of daimon. Now, interestingly enough, daimon for the ancient Greeks did not mean demon per se, but meant lesser spirits or even guardian spirits, meant to bring fortune and riches. Bear with me, there is a point to the story. Plato stated that each person born had a daimon inside of them, and that these daimons, protective spirits, were assigned at birth by lot. Now, the point. In the translation of the Old Testament, made in the 2nd century CE for the Greek-speaking Jews in ancient Alexandria, the word angelos messenger translates the Hebrew word malak, meaning messenger, both divine and mortal. In the same translations, the word daimon or daimonia translates the Hebrew word for shedim, meaning evil spirits that cause maladies, and seirim, entities that we identify as demons. Daimon is also the word used to describe Asmodeus in the book of Tobit. Thus, through this translation and the Greek language being one of the first languages the Christian Bible was translated to, we get angels and demons because of the lack of better terms when translating the Old Testament from Hebrew. But mind you, the Greeks considered the daimons spirits of nature. Thus, there were both benevolent and malevolent daimons. The benevolent daimons were called agathodaimon, meaning noble spirit, while the evil ones were called kakodaimon, meaning bad or evil spirits. Now, given how the Romans borrowed much of their mythology and their religion directly from the Greeks, there is no real point in talking about the demons in their mythology as we just covered them. But we'll talk about another culture that has a copious number of demons, and that is the Chinese culture, although most of their evil entities take the form of ghosts or spirits. While researching this topic, I realized that there is much more information to be found when looking up evil entities from Asia than from the Abrahamic world. That being said, I will not go through all the Chinese demons, instead I will cherry pick a little. Please know that most Chinese demons have a story, they have a backstory, and they all seem to be end-level bosses. Let's start with some spirits that can fall anywhere on the benevolent-malevolent spectrum. Hulijing or fox spirits. These are not demons per se, they are more similar to fairies in European culture, but are the equivalent of ancient Greek daimons. Okay. So, they were believed to be able to take human form, and if they gathered enough energy, they would become very powerful immortal beings. Almost always depicted as young, beautiful women, they sound more like archface to me. Now, let's get to actual demons. There are several categories of demons such as Yaogui, Yaoguai, Yaomo, and Yaojing. Of course, I'm butchering these names, so please bear with me. These are malevolent animal spirits or fallen divine beings that acquire magical powers through the practice of Taoism. There are Yaojings that are not really demons per se. Some of them are skeletons who acquire magical powers, so liches more or less, while Yaogui are kings of lesser demons. We will start with an interesting entity that does not fall under any of the four categories mentioned, but she's an important entity in hell nonetheless. She's a goddess of oblivion, much like Lethe, and her name is Old Lady Meng, who makes sure souls drink her 5-flavored tea of forgetfulness. She brews the tea from the herbs that grow around ponds and streams in the 10th court of Deea, or the Chinese hell. And drinking this tea ensures that the memories of the lives lived by the souls are erased and the soul is ready for reincarnation and the cycle begins anew. Next we have Bai Gu Jing, the White Bones Demon, a Yao Jing, who is linked to Sun Wukong, or the Monkey King, during his journey to the west. Bai Gu Jing appears before the Monkey King as a little girl, but the king sees his real form and kills him. Then later he appears once more as a murdered young mother and the king strikes him down again. And last on our list, we have the Mogwai or the Mogui. The Mogui are demons whose sole purpose is to harm humans. They lead people to sin, suffering, and eventually self-destruction. As I mentioned a little earlier, there are many Chinese demons on the list, but most appear to be ghosts, so I wanted to stick to something closer to what the Abrahamic religions understand as demons. And again, as you can see, there is a lot to go on here. Mainly that you can come up with demons that take any shape or form in your own homebrewed world. In our mythology as humans, they take so many different forms that the only thing that matters is what they represent. And as you can tell, they represent the characteristics that we find to be the worst in humans, such as greed, gluttony, lustfulness, etc, etc, etc. Before we wrap things up, let's talk about the miniature for a bit. It is finally time to add the, final touches to the skin. Using the lightest skin tone used for this miniature, Anthea Skin or 72107 from Vallejo, I am edge highlighting very thinly his ribcage and adding a dot here, a line there, accentuating the rippling muscles. To be honest, I am really happy with how his skin turned out. It is my best attempt to date at painting a miniature with so much skin showing. I still have a long way to go and a lot to learn, but I feel I reached a checkpoint and I can only go up from here. Hopefully. Oh, and maybe you look at this miniature and say, well, you missed a lot of muscles or highlighted something that wasn't there, but please remember, he is a demon prince and I am sure he has muscles we never heard of, we never worked out, and as you can see, he is really buff, so he knows what he's doing. Again, a line here, a dot there, highlighting those knuckles. Now, to tie everything together, I thinned down Karabor Crimson. For 5 brushfuls of crimson, I added 3 brushfuls of water. I'm applying this all over the miniature, and this will deepen the red and hide some of the mistakes, bringing everything together. Next, I will tackle his apron/skirt, for which I have no ideas just yet. But I will go with something simple. It's gonna be interesting. Now, let's wrap things up and delight in mango washing. Now, regardless of the culture we are talking about, the demons or devils that show up in mythology are at least somewhat linked to one of the elements of the natural world: fire, wind, water, and or earth. Perhaps they embody the violent and destructive aspects of these elements, while humans have somewhat learned not to fully tame these elements, but to make them work for the benefit of humanity. Do you remember when I told you that there is no real difference between demons and devils? Well, there still isn't. But there is one source from the 17th century Europe that lists the different categories or species of devils. So, here we go. According to Compendium Maleficarum, a literary work written by Friar Francesco Maria Guazzo in 1628, each category of devils inhabits a part of this world where the element they represent is most abundant or most violent. The aerial devils live in the air and are the devils evil humans are in contact with the most. They are in constant communication with hell and are responsible for disasters such as violent storms and shipwrecks. Although invisible, they can create bodies for themselves if need be, and are the entities that make humans question their faith, slander others, or commit foolish acts. They apparently are delighted with the obscenities of theater and the hyperbole of poets, which tells you a lot about what the clergy found as inciting to sin in that period of time. On the other hand, being such close proximity to humans constantly, these devils or demons are the easiest to summon by sorcerers and wizards. GMs, take note. The aquos or the water devils live in ponds, lakes, rivers, lagoons and the seas, so basically anywhere there is a little bit more water, and appear as young beautiful women who lure men and drown them, who stalk swimmers and pull them under, and who cause storms at sea and sink ships. Heliophobic devils are deathly afraid of the light and come out only during the night when they stalk and haunt the innocent. Terrestrial devils were the last ones to be cast out of heaven and inhabit forests, fields, and woods. They lay traps for hunters, lead astray those traveling through woods at night, and attack those who live close to forests. The subterranean devils live in deep caves and are responsible for miners dying, vanishing, mines collapsing, or for people getting lost in caves and never returning. The last category is the fire devils. They are the most powerful of the devils, most trusted servitors of the devil himself, and command the other 5 categories. They live very high up in the air, where they can keep an eye on all other devils and report directly to Lucifer himself. And with that, I say this again: there is no proper or improper way to include such entities in your homebrewed world. The creators of D&D have found a clever way to separate demons from devils using the Blood Wars. I think I will make a video regarding that at one point. But this proves my point. There is no reason why you cannot come up with whatever you want. Creators of TTRPGs, video games, books or movies have always taken liberties with their evil entities, and so can you. They just have to embody the worst traits of humanity. Take examples from our real world mythology and just run with it. Come to think about it, I will have to do a video on the different paradises and heavens to balance the scale a little, as I've spoken about the underworld for far too long. Now, Potato's 15th name is Mistress. And with that, if you enjoyed this video and found some value in it, please make sure you like, as it shows me it was useful. Make sure you subscribe and join this growing, wonderful, funky community. And don't forget to hit the bell so you are notified when the next video is out. And of course, if you want to go the extra mile, share it with your friends, your DMs, GMs, storytellers, creators, players, neighbors, family, pets, everyone. Oh, and if you want to see more of my lovely assistants, make sure you check out TW Creative minus Cats, a channel with shorts that have nothing to do with history and everything to do with cat adventures. Thank you so much for the privilege of your time. I truly hope you found some inspiration and learned something new today, and I can't wait to see you all funky people here next time on Funky Monkey MP, a place where you get your dose of miniature painting, history, world building, and trivia. Remember, be curious, take inspiration from the past, and never stop learning, world building, and creating amazing things, whatever those are. Your mind and imagination are awesome, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Until next time, have yourselves a wonderful, wonderful, funky day. Cheers.